Today, we're going to focus mostly on the TrueSight operations management solution and how you can be, a real champion for your APM initiatives. And the way we're going to start this is take a look at this sort of continuum of monitoring, and we call them strategies. So with any solution, if you can get this, these 6 areas integrated into your practice, you're going to, really be able to deliver business value. So I'm going to just go over these, basically, and then we'll do a live demo of the solution with the, application context focus. So just take a quick look at these, operational, proactive, contextual, notification, tactical, and correlation. And we've mapped these to the personas that were provided to us by Gartner's APM Magic Quadrant. So we have this first. You can imagine maybe that you're one of these personas. So Robert is a junior administrator in IT operations. He's got responsibility for the full IT stack of monitoring, and he chooses TrueSight operations management because he can get quickly get started and get a really good operational view of the performance and the availability of key infrastructure and applications. So you can see, just in this quick shot, it's like, pulling somebody over for a speeding ticket, or, just having that, performance and availability sorted out from high importance, medium importance, and low importance. So with our new TrueSight platform, we have this modern HTML5 interface. We've revamped it, made it a lot easier to use, and we'll be seeing the live demo in a moment. Then we've got another personality, or persona, if you will. It's the application support person. So this is Lily. She's in application support. She might be the type of person that calls you in IT operations and says, I need you to help me with my application. And you can provide, in this case, just to be a little more technical here, this is our active monitoring. So we have active end user monitoring at the front end, in the back end, with a app diagnostics agent. So this was our signature piece for the TrueSight operations platform, was to move away from the more of an infrastructure focus to a really converged application and infrastructure view. So as you see here, we're looking at all the tiers, and those applications that Lily is responsible for are being discovered as they're being used in real time and mapped to these different tiers, so you can quickly pinpoint and troubleshoot issues faster. And we'll see this live in a few minutes. All right, and then you've got your, reliability engineer, somebody who, might be doing continuous delivery, and they need to have visibility as well. So they could be, working with people that are writing their own code and running it, in a continuous delivery mode. And with TrueSight Operations Management, this comes out as a completely mapped application alongside the infrastructure. So folks in QA and continuous delivery can drill down to the application flow and the code level. That's the real issue at runtime. Susan is your service management. She's like the very concerned about mitigating the event sprawl in your environment. So her focus is, gosh, we've got a ton of events coming in, and we need to figure out how to consolidate them, assign responsibility, and just reduce, like, everybody, are we done fixing that kind of thing? So many of you might be, already know that Service Impact Management, TrueSight Operations Manager, or BMC in general, is really our strong suit. We have the most comprehensive, event management solution on the market, in terms of, once you get your events from a variety of sources, you can begin to consolidate and do, a specific action, assign responsibility right away, and, we call this sort of a tactical approach so that you're avoiding these typical kind of war room scenarios that you might get into. Now we got Miguel, who is the lead developer for, an application delivery, scenario. This lead developer, wants to jump in the code every once in a while, but might have a team that's working with them. And for them, we give them the kind of analytics that he can troubleshoot. And one of the main analytics that we have, and it also is a differentiator, is being able to look at a larger set of issues once a specific issue occurs. So let's say you get an event that there's latency issues, and you drill into the event. You can launch, or Miguel can launch a probable cause analysis, and what that'll do is provide a score for all the events that were related to that event, and he can begin pinpointing, from a larger context. And Emma, and this is real digital transformation, and you might all know this now, that in IT operations, it used to be, more of a siloed event. Just throw it over the fence to IT operations. They'll handle it. They'll provision it. We got to wait for them to, give us, provision our solution. But now, different business lines are wanting to team up with IT operations. So if you think about it, Emma has like a marketing campaign, and they want to figure out, how much money they should invest in, the IT resources to make sure that goes off without a hitch. So, for example, taking a look at a variety of metrics, the IT operations staff can help, Emma with her plan. And this is, it's a little bit alongside the idea of, the APM, but it's definitely, we're all realizing now that, it's applications that run the business, and, ultimately being able to have the type of analytics we can see here. We can go down to, root causes with log files. We can correlate a business performance metric with IT. So like maybe the order time for a specific, somebody's online e-commerce, and kind of correlate that with, what the latency is for certain aspects of that application. So we can take a look at that. So ultimately, you become the IT Ops champion with TrueSight Operations Management. And this is just one more slide, and then the demo. This is my favorite slide that we have. We have this probable cause analysis. So we're able to, not like, unlike the competitors, we really have a full view of server, network, database, application, middleware, transaction, sources for events, and we can pinpoint for the application delivery. We can, take a look at, what's happening in the context of a much larger environment. We know now that applications are no longer, web server, database, users logging on. There can be a really complex set of data behind the scenes, and what TrueSight does is provide this ability to take a look at all of this disparate data and find the probable cause quickly. So let me switch to the demo portion, and I'm just going to escape here and go into here, and let me go to my dashboard. All right, so to set this up, in terms of a live demonstration, again, this is application delivery. So we have what is called a stock trader application. So you could imagine that for like a global company, this stock trader application, it's often used as a demo type of application. Users are accessing this application from around the globe, from all different devices, and what they need to do is execute trades, update their portfolio, get a quote, and that kind of thing. So in terms of IT operations management, first thing we're showing you here is that you can create a custom dashboard of any of the metrics in that full service delivery that I talked about earlier. We talk about, synthetic, real-time monitoring of the server health, the top transactions. So this was created by an IT administrator or an IT operations admin like Robert could do this for any of his constituents, people asking for visibility. Now we're going to drill into the signature view. And this is when we brought, the idea of this context view of all the tiers of the application at runtime. So what this means is for the stock trader application, we have a diagnostic agent that is mapping, each transaction that a user's making and mapping it to a specific tier that you can troubleshoot. So these are happening, in real time, and then we've added to this the synthetic tier. So we have the real-time transactions, and then we're constantly checking that application. I mean, this is something that's configurable. So with synthetic transaction, let's say with a stock trader application, how many people are going to be, necessarily, issuing trades on a Sunday? Not many, probably. However, you could have these synthetic executions taking place so that the app is going to be ready on Monday morning. Something could go down in anywhere, throughout your infrastructure, and you could be troubleshooting that and fixing it right away. So let's go just a little bit deeper in this. So we're gonna look at this business tier to give you some visibility of what you can see from the back end in terms of application performance management. So we see that we have this application server that's in a critical condition. There's some latency violations. We see the app server here. If we click on this, we can see the business transactions. And then we can see these are actual landing pages, or what you can call, endpoints that a user is accessing for this. So this is trade quotes, and we say, okay, let's show the traces, let's show the details. And now we have the visibility of the specific tiers of that trade quotes execution, the application flow, and we can, drill into any one of these at any time and see more details about, what's going on with the server. We can see that there's over 10 seconds of delay here. And that's the kind of thing that you can, troubleshoot that's happening, and you can share with your developers. So, even at the code level, you can, see what was executed in terms of, the call stack, and then export to HTML if you need, and you can share that, with your app teams. So now we go back and want to show you this. So that was kind of a quick run through the application context that we have, and we did that deep dive. One of the things we've added recently with this last release is now we have the service models available in TrueSight Operations Management. So, for example, if you have a CMDB that you could be configuring with ADVM, and the service models can now be automatically populated, within the TrueSight framework. And you can see here that this service model now is available for troubleshooting. This one's in good status right now, and we can see that the health of the stock app can be associated with all the services that are related to that stock trader application. And then let's show the end user view. So talking about passive end user experience management, we now have the ability to take the passive EUEM either from we can take it from the cloud or on-premise, and we have these dashboards available to you now. And in the future, we're just going to continue to add more, because the application performance management is really starting to take off with TrueSight. In our next release, we'll see the heat map of the the latency across the globe. So right now we see this by region, so we can see the number of users from each region. We can see the availability, and this is all from that passive EUEM. So what I want to do is kind of just summarize from an APM perspective that we have it all. So we have your passive EUEM, which you see here, and if we go back to the application view, we see this high fidelity active monitoring of the application, which is done with the app diagnostics, stitching the back end, which we saw, as well as the front end with very traditional automatically injected JavaScript injection. What we add to it, it's also a differentiator, is this synthetic tier. So our synthetic transaction executions from our Borland Silk Performer solution that helps you develop those scripts is state of the art. It it allows you to create transactions at a CRM level or way in the back end. It's not just the front end user experience like some of the other solutions. So something to look into if you want to have a really robust synthetic tier. And the other huge piece, alongside, so we said, right, passive EUEM, we've got the active monitoring for applications here, we have the synthetic tier here, and we also have now the service modeling, so you can look at the full IT stack and see where you can direct your focus. And also on top of that, we have the ability at any time, we see here we can launch into TrueSight IT data analytics. So the log analysis will give you insight to all the logs that are being executed at runtime associated with this application. So I am going to now flip back to our presentation and just cover a few more things, and hopefully you have some questions populating in the chat. One of the things we want to highlight here is that with our TrueSight Ops management solution, we have a mobile app. So it's called BMC TrueOps, and it's available on the Apple Store, so you can, or iTunes, I should say. So you can download a lightweight version of our TrueSight Operations Management platform, which provides you with IT operations on the go, if you will. And what you can see here is the critical state of the applications, just in the palm of palm of your hand. See the devices associated with those applications, and this is key. With the specific events, you can go ahead and assign and acknowledge, or depending on if it's kind of like a manager's view, they get a sort of a snapshot of what's in store ahead, just based on their phone. So that's very cool. We have support for iOS right now, and very near future we'll be adding the Android. We'll be able to do the BMC IT Ops on Android. One of the things we want to mention in terms of, we talk about the full IT stack monitoring. It's becoming more and more apparent. We've been talking to a lot of customers, and they're really liking the fact that alongside the hardcore APM solution that we have, with the active monitoring, synthetic, we also have a full IT stack solution for modeling, all kinds of services. So this is just, we're just highlighting the fact that we're keeping up with the state of, digital transformation. So here's a service model with OpenStack and Hadoop. So we can incorporate that into your service models and provide this kind of visibility along with your, complicated application delivery. And so now we are at Q&A. So Dick, do you have any questions? I believe you.
Yes, and now would be a good time to go ahead and enter a question if you have one. So just use the Q&A box, and we'll monitor that. But let me start out. And good job, by the way, Patrick. One of the things I noticed when you were going through this is that there's another BMC product called BMC Discovery, which used to be called ADDM, and it does dependency mapping.
That's right.
And TrueSight really does application modeling. So could you sort of compare and contrast? When would you need one and not the other, or how would they both work together?
Well, that was the service. Do you remember the service model view? That can come directly from that. That was a very basic model. So your BMC Discovery, and you're talking about CMDB, automatically populating the configuration items. Is that right? And having a view from that perspective.
Yeah, or just if you're going to discover what's out there on the network, you're going to know what the dependencies are and what's linked to what, so that if something fails, right? Okay.
Yeah, that automatically can be brought into the TrueSight Operations Management Platform in one of the service models, and then you can where they intersect is that those applications that you've defined, with your active monitoring or the JavaScript front-end user and back-end, once that is defined and discovered by TrueSight, you can associate that application with that service model so that, for example, let's say the application starts to experience some kind of latency issue, it will, its state will be alert, be in an alert state, and it will be associated with that service model so that you could begin troubleshooting anything in that service model. I mean, it could be a switch, it could be a database, service, or it could be even a web service or something associated with the complete, service model. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Cool. A question that just came in is how much professional services is required to get a basic implementation up and running?
Well, there's two things to think about in terms of professional services. We have found, we talk about Net Promoter Score, right? We have found time and time again that the upfront, planning with professional services always leads to more is more. At first people think, I don't know, we've got a bright bunch of folks here. We'll figure it out. This is pretty straightforward. But it really helps to have a little bit of that upfront professional services. So it's really up to the implementation. Whether you need a week, 2-day, or a combination of that with training. Those kinds of things are something to think about. And I think you've highlighted, Dick, that you might have in an organization they might have someone that's on board that's already very familiar with the solutions. So that might take, shortcut a little bit of the, the ramp up. But we definitely recommend investigating, or scoping how you'd want to use services.
Yeah, well, of course, being in a large enterprise, being a TrueSight administrator is really a full-time job. I mean, I think you're going to need to monitor what's going on a regular basis because it's just so important to the health of the applications, especially as you get more and more moving forward.
Well, one of the things that we want to, just to add that, one of the things I hope this came through in this seminar, is we want you to be the IT Ops champion. Once you're on board with the TrueSight Operations Management, you can't cover it all now. You're right. It's a full-time job, and you're going to have people knocking on your door day in and day out. Can we just get blah? Can we just get blah? And so you want to be able to provide them with the visibility and whenever you can kind of sort of self-service that. And we're moving in that direction. I mean, we saw some of those demos at Engage where, people are automatically spinning up their resources. They're automatically being monitored. There's no instrumentation. IT operations definitely has their, fingerprint on it, but it's less, dependent on the old-fashioned IT ops shop.
Yeah.
So we'll help you avoid, shadow IT. So many organizations are becoming, rightfully, you have an innovative team that's working on something and they decided to veer off the beaten path of, what was, traditional IT ops, right? And they might get some freeware out there, or somebody's really bright and they might be writing some scripts to, update, and they're really good at it, but then, how people move away, right? And then it just, they just throw this over the fence to IT operations, and they're like, how do we do this? Two things there. One thing is we do integrate and are interoperable with a lot of vendors, even competitors. So if you have data come from that, don't fret. We'll help you, integrate that into your environment.
Okay. All right. Let me ask another question then, and that is, in terms of integrating, you just mentioned. Typically, isn't there an integration to remedy so that if an incident, or not an incident, but let's say an event happens, that the service desk gets notified right away, right? So they don't find out that typically the service desk, somebody calls up and says, hey, I can't access this application, and the service desk may not know anything about that. But I think in your case, you have an integration to remedy, so right away you've alerted the service desk that you may be getting some calls. Is that how that works?
Absolutely, and that is a great story in terms of digital innovations. Like at this point, if you have My IT, you have Remedy, you have TrueSight Operations Management. But let's first describe the scenario without it. Okay, without it, something happens, somebody gets an event, someone kicks off an email to a group list, and that group list gets it and adds another group list. And then they add like 2 important people and then CC, like people that can move and shake. Pretty soon this email chain gets really long, and it's like all about the same incident. Does that sound familiar? I know it does to some people. Yeah, that happens all the time. So with BMC, we're going to make it so that when you discover an incident as a user, you'll know the state of it right away. You could just click on My IT and say, oh, that incident's being resolved. It's high priority. And you don't have to then fire off your email or hop onto a group email and say, hey, I'm seeing the same thing. How come it's, a lot of, I call it, I might be stating my age, but, the Keystone Cops thing where, something happens, everybody gets out of the chair and bumps into each other. That's what we're avoiding with this solution.
Right, and you've heard this before, I'm sure as well, is that you just get so many alerts, you tend to ignore all the alerts because you don't know which one is important, right? So,
and that brings me to something I should have highlighted more. I think it was in the slides, but the dynamic baselining capability with TrueSight Operations Management is tremendous, and you have the ability to tune that so that you can learn the behavior of a measurement over an hour, over a day, or over a week. And you can be alerted when something becomes abnormal according to your tolerance. So you don't have, like you said, the idea of a static threshold that just kicks off an event and we go, oh, it doesn't matter. We've got a bunch of alerts of it. It still works. Some say, because 70% say utilization on Monday morning when people come in is typical and expected, and we can handle it. But if you get an alert every time it gets to 70% on Monday morning, you're going to be overwhelmed. With this behavioral learning aspect, you will only be alerted if on Monday morning it's at 99% or something that's out of the ordinary. And that could even be, let's think, a little bit outside here. It could even be like, wait a minute, this server is usually at 70%. Why is it only at 10%? That could indicate a problem as well. We can notify you of those things so you can prioritize, this event sprawl idea.
Okay. All right. Well, here's another question that just came in. It says, can you describe again what is in the BMC TrueSight suite? I know you had a slide up there. I think one of the first ones.
Okay. Let me just kind of go back to that.
And then the second part is how is everything priced? Is it just one price, one bundled price, or is it sort of a la carte?
It's free for the first 6 months. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Sign me up. All right.
Just kidding. No, I'm not going to go over pricing here. I wish I could, but I want to have that treatment. We're constantly tuning our pricing model so that we're competitive. We're meeting the market needs. We can do a la carte, or we can do the TrueSight Operations Management full platform. So I don't have all the solutions for TrueSight operations that you might be thinking of with TrueSight operations management. But what you would have, as part of this platform to be an IT ops champion for APM, you would get the TrueSight operations bundle, which would be the presentation server, the infrastructure management server, the app visibility portal, and the passive EUEM, and of course the Atrium single sign-on. So that would be the bundle, right? That you would to have that complete visibility with TrueSight operations, and then of course then we have these other sister or brother solutions here. So I just highlighted all the components of the TrueSight operations, but then we have these other solutions that are definitely complementary to TrueSight operations management. So we have like a family of solutions, and then we have kind of like a bundle for TrueSight operations management. TrueSight Pulse and TrueSight Intelligence are SaaS offerings. So those are as a service you can let people self-provision those, and those are priced typically like monthly subscriptions, whereas the other solutions have a more traditional model in terms of licensing. I'm sure that didn't help with prices, but just wanted to give an overview.
Is there a bundle that includes other products like EU, not the passive,
yes.
but the active? Okay, so
no, that
the BCO and all those other things. Okay,
not BCO. Now, but BCO is separate.
Okay.
And you said BCO, you mean BMC capacity optimization. So we have TrueSight capacity optimization now. There, again, it's complementary. So that's you would get into an engagement, that could include a range of these, but typically you would get into, an engagement with TrueSight operations management as sort of one initiative. And then alongside that, you could have a capacity optimization initiative that, might be a different set of folks in the organization that are responsible for that. It could be similar. You know what I'm saying? So you'd have a bundle, let's just call it a bundle for TrueSight operations management. And then we also have then, another solution, TrueSight capacity optimization, which can take, it can get data from these other sources.
Okay. All right. Let me ask a question about the EUEM then, because I know you show that as sort of in passive mode. And when I think of EUEM, I think of a product that helps organizations that, as an example, use their website to do business. And, maybe you're retail organization, and
Absolutely,
you're doing electronic, commerce, and you really rely on your web server to be up all the time, and the end users really expect an excellent experience, or they'll go somewhere else because there's got to be other competitors there.
That's right.
So one of the things that I'm not sure that I understand, because there's a lot of things that would be out of an organization's control, like the ISP. Maybe somebody couldn't get in, no fault of yours, but maybe the ISP was not working, or maybe there was something that wouldn't allow the user to get in and have that great experience. Well, does EUM do anything about that, or how does that? What is that?
Yep. Well, what you do when you put the JavaScript snippet, I'm getting down to the details, that's automatically served with your e-commerce web page. So it's injected. So you see, the latency related to everything from that web server to that end user experience. So we see that front end, if it has to traverse, an ISP or whatever, that's, one angle of visibility. And we also provide the visibility at the back end. So let's say with the app diagnostic agent, it will see those. It could be like a service call, like something that could be slowing down is, say, like I'm just going to give a simple example, like updating the the weather widget on your, if that's appropriate, or on your website. We would see that, and if you had even further visibility with some of our middleware management tools or other tools, I mean that's just a special case, but we definitely map those segments so you can identify where the bottleneck is.
Okay, so that means, because otherwise you wouldn't have any visibility without that, right? You wouldn't know what the end user was doing, right?
Yeah, no, we see the real transactions. I just want to make that very clear. So we see the transactions that are taking place, and we index them and map them. The ones that have latency or response time issues in particular. The other thing that you'll want to do, and we really encourage leveraging this in terms of SLAs, and especially for an e-commerce site, is to have the synthetic checks going all the time. So you can be alerted right away. So if there's a particular user transaction on an e-commerce website that has to work, otherwise you're losing money, you would create that synthetic script and just have that running all the time. Just checking and make sure. Have it running when nobody's using it. Because if you can fix an issue when nobody's using it, that's even better, right? So you fix it before they even notice. That's a key point. I mean, it's one thing for someone to have a bad experience, log a ticket, right? You go back and, we have the crime scene recorded, basically, with our, app diagnostics. And then, we'll see, where that issue was. Then we'll see why it happened. Maybe it was somebody, at that particular time, there was a database call, right, that was not being responded to because somebody changed like the permissions, like on that database server, and you'll see right away, darn, and then you could associate that with, an event that could have been a change management window from another event. That's just probable cause analysis. So that event could be associated. Let's say the end user had a bad experience and you're going back to the scene of the crime and you see that, there was a change, on Tuesday night, the user administrator updated all the databases and they forgot to add user X, something like that.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to pinpoint that.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me, you probably remember in the past month, both Southwest and Delta had outages, and their websites were down, okay? Yeah. So in fact, Southwest is a good example because, if their website's down, that's the only way they can sell. I guess they can sell tickets over the phone, but that's the primary way that they sell tickets. So there has to be some revenue loss. And the interesting thing, at least on the Southwest case, I happen to know because I got an email. I got caught up in that, and I got an email the next day from Southwest, and they gave me a 50% discount off of a future trip. So it was a great deal, but it's just the opposite of what's supposed to happen, right? I mean, normally you pay, as a consumer, you pay companies money to do things, but in this particular case, they were paying you, okay? Yeah. So just think of the cost of that, and I suspect that neither of those companies had a product like TrueSight to really give them some heads up that these applications weren't looking too good. Now, they blamed it on maybe a power outage or something like, who knows? I know one of them was.
I forget what it was. It was the utility. Like there was a utility switch or something. I don't know.
That's what they said, but that's right. That's what they said. But who knows what really happened, right? Okay. So anyway, but I think that pretty much brings us to the end here. I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much, Patrick. Great job, and thanks for the questions, and thanks everybody out there for attending.